Shavuos starts on Sunday night. On Saturday night. Shavuos Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday. And Monday, by the way, is also Yisker. A lot of people don't know that there's a Yisker on Shavuos too. So you're all welcome to come to Shul and be with us. And yeah, so that's what we got. So you guys, can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay. Good, that's good. Just we always want to make sure that there's good sound. So we have basically a 3-day whopping holiday. It's always so good that you have to cook for 3 days. So you have Shabbos, and then we have 2 days of Yontif, Sunday and Monday. So altogether we have a serious festival here, a serious festival. So we have to eat a lot of cheesecake. You know, it's customary to eat cheesecake and blintzes and all kinds of dairy products on Shavuos. A lot of people like the Shavuos because of that. You know, a little bit more dairy, less meat. And I mean, the custom is still to eat meat, but we eat a lot of dairy. So we're going to talk a little bit today. We started speaking last week to the Kabbalah of dairy. This week we're going to talk to the Kabbalah of cheesecake. Okay, so what's the Kabbalah of cheesecake? It's Kabbalah and it's cheesecake. You know, it's like how did the two things, right? But, you know, Jews like cheesecake and cheese blintzes and cheese danishes and alle gute Sachen and cheese and wine over the holidays. So this is an important aspect. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Kabbalah of Shavuos and the Kabbalah of cheesecake. Okay, so you guys are ready for that. So let's first talk a little bit about Shavuos. What is the celebration? Every holiday has its special thing, its specialty, what we celebrate. We know that on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, that's the time we celebrate, you know, our personal growth, spiritual growth, high holidays. And then we have on the on the holiday like Hanukkah, we celebrate the victory of the Jewish people. Purim, we celebrate Hanukkah is the victory of light over darkness. Purim is the physical victory of the Jewish people. And Pesach, we celebrate freedom. Shavuos, we celebrate Jewish knowledge, Jewish learning, That's the time we celebrate the receiving of the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. We know that Hashem came down on Mount Sinai and gave the Jews the Torah, gave us the 10 Commandments, Moses came down with the tablets from God, right? When did that happen? On Shavuot, on the day of Shavuot, which is either the 6th or the 7th day of the month of Sivan. So we celebrate in diaspora, we celebrate on the 6th and the 7th. And in Israel, they only celebrated one day on the, so we have much more cheesecake. So so there's a big benefit. In Toronto, but Jerusalem, they only eat the dairy one day. We could eat cake and coffee for 2 days. So, you know, we have that advantage. But what's so special about the day? We say that that's the day that God gave the Jews the 10 Commandments. We know the 10 Commandments represents all of morality, the bedrock of society. It's a time that God turned the world from a barbaric world into a civil world, right? He gave us basic commandments of thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not bear false testimony, honor your father and mother, keep Shabbos, believe in God, respect for God. That's what the 10 Commandments is all about. But one has to ask an important question over here. What was so revolutionary about the 10 Commandments? Every society understands that that's a normal thing. You know, don't murder. Yeah, obviously, you can't. Society can't survive. People can go around murdering each other. Not to steal. It sounds like actually elementary sort of laws. The Torah tells us not to be jealous, not to covet. Okay, that's a little bit of an interesting law, but it's also something that the human mind can come up on our own. And every society from the days way back, Hammurabi or whatever, they all had some kind of society laws of of morality, of decency, of etiquette, of being a civil society. So what is the big hoo-ha, as they say, from the Ten Commandments? They're simple laws. And moreover, the question gets a little bit more challenging because we find that the Jewish people, we kept many of these observances already way before the giving of the Torah. Torah was given actually in the year 3000. That's actually, the Torah was given in the year 2448 on the Jewish calendar. 2448 on the Jewish calendar, right? That's exactly 3,334 years ago. Okay, that's how many years ago the Torah, that's 3,334. I remember that, not that I'm so smart, it's 3334. Last year was 3333. Okay, but that's how many years ago the Torah was given. That's a lot of years, right? It's a lot of years ago the Torah was given to us. That's in the year on the Jewish calendar, because today we are in the year 5782, right? The year 5782 on the Jewish calendar. This happened in the year 2448 on the Jewish calendar. 448. You could check out my math if it works out. But Jewish history didn't start 2448, right? We know that Abraham was born in a very important year on the Jewish calendar. Abraham was born in the year 1948. So Abraham was born, right? 1940. Why is 1948 an important date? Because we know that Israel was founded in 1948. And that's when Abraham was born on the Hebrew calendar many years earlier. So it's also 1948. So the Torah was given 500 years after Abraham was born. So we had already a big history before the Torah was given. There was Abraham, there was Isaac, there was Jacob, there was Levi and Amram, Moses. There were 7 generations that done, and those 7 famous generations that went on in those 500 years before the Torah was given. So the Jewish people, we go back many years before that. So what was going on with the Jews? Were we murdering then? Weren't we honoring our fathers and mothers before? The Talmud tells us that Avrohom Avinu had already a yeshiva. He had a place where he taught Torah. Yitzchak Zaken v'Yoshev b'yeshiva. Isaac had a yeshiva. Yaakov had a yeshiva. They all taught. What did they teach? They taught the basic laws of morality and decency and menschlichkeit and all those things, right? They knew already about Shabbat. It says before the Torah was given. In fact, God himself gave it a few months earlier in a place called Mara. He already gave him the law of Shabbat, laws of Shabbat. So by the time the giving of the Torah comes about and the 10 Commandments is given to Moses at Mount Sinai, it's already old laws. We already know these laws from before. Abraham spent the first law of the Torah is to believe in a one God, right? Abraham spent the whole lifetime going and spreading the idea of one God in this world. Abraham was the revolutionary. It was a world of monotheism, a world of idolatry. And Abraham went from city to city and he gathered people. He was teaching everybody about a one God. It's 400 years earlier, 500 years earlier. It says Abraham already, when he was born 500 years before the Torah was given, but already when he was 48 years old, he already developed the whole religion. 48 years old, he already had a whole movement that people should reject idolatry and embrace monotheism. So this is old news. 10 Commandments is old news. It's not fake news, chas v'shalom. We want to know fake news. No, it's real news, but it's old news. And God came and he said, God comes down on the mountain and he tells people, boom, I have something new. One God. Everybody said, hold on. Well, God, believe in God. Like We've been doing this already for 400 years. Like, well, where are you coming from? And then he says, thou shalt not murder, and thou shalt not steal. I mean, that's already like, right. That's if you believe in a God, and you believe that there's control in the world, and the world is not a jungle. Obviously, you don't go around murdering people. Unfortunately, one of the recent times, you think thou shalt not murder is a simple commandment, right? You think it's simple. But give a look what happened in Uvalde and all the other places around yesterday in Tulsa, all around the United States of America, the bastion of freedom, the bastion of every other day we have murders. So maybe it is new news. maybe we need to reinstate Ten Commandments, right? One of the things that the Lubavitcher Rebbe was pushing for many years, he felt that in public schools, with the advent of science and modern technology and all these new developments, slowly but surely religion got pushed out of public schools, and especially with the ideas of separation of religion and state. What happened was that in schools they stopped, speaking about God. The Rebbe felt that's a big problem. So even though it's important to have separations between states and religions, all that, but to have basic tenets of belief that people should believe the world is not a jungle, that there's a purpose in life, that there is a mission in life, that life is sacred, that life should be honored, and we should give respect to each other. All these ideas, for some reason, got thrown out of the schools together with religion. And so the basic tenets, the basic underpinnings of religion, of the Ten Commandments, got thrown out in the shuffle. And so the Rebbe felt that there has to be some way to bring it back to the kids, and not on a big scale, but at least basics. I returned to basics. So he thought it'd be a good idea that at the beginning of the school day, they used to have the Lord's Prayer. Not to have a Lord's Prayer, but at least to have some kind of a non-denominational meditation about the sacredness of life, about the purpose of life, about believing that the world has a mission, that we're trying to do something good with our lives, all those ideas. So they should have a moment of silence where kids can meditate on these things, and a parent could tell the child what to think about. So it's not the coercion of religion, but even atheists believe in something, right? Have to believe in something, otherwise, what are we living for, right? So the Rebbe felt that was a very, very important thing to try to back into our schools, and especially thou shalt not murder. So what's happening is you have a kid, he's a teenager. Second, he can get a gun. He goes to the store. Of course, in America, anyone can get a gun. You got a gun, and he goes back to his school, and he goes and he kills everybody he loves, his grandmother, his friends, his teachers, everybody he hates. We all had. I mean, we all had like. I remember in school when we were kids, we always had like kids that had like you had a love list and a hate list. You had like all the people you hate in life, right? Yeah, of course, everybody's got those. You go through those moments of life where you hate this teacher and that teacher, they embarrassed you or whatever. I mean, you weren't planning on going and killing all of them, but you had that list. And this is what the Ten Commandments are about. It's about thinking that there are laws. It's not a jungle. That you have to before you do something. You don't just do what you feel. That's the important thing over here. People in today's day and age think you have to express yourself, self-expressive, and you have to express yourself to the point that you do whatever the heck you want. Parents tell their kids, all I want my child is to be happy. Yeah, that's all you want your child to be, is to be happy. I mean, that's great. That's wonderful. But how about being an important, a productive citizen in society? How about being a mensch? How about, biting, what I mean? Biting your tongue sometime and not saying bad things to other people? A little self-discipline, a little self-control. Those aren't values. I want my child to be happy. Yeah, of course. Obviously, happiness is important. Yeah, but sometimes happiness is marine land. It's not good enough, right? It's not good enough. Yeah, it's a fish should be happy. Marine land are happy, right? But human beings need a balance between happiness and self-expression, but also there has to be a sense of morality and responsibility to the world, the planet we're in, right? So a lot of people today express an environmentalism. That's a form of saying, I'm not going to do just what I want. I might be ruining the world for my kids and my grandchildren generations from now. So I'm not going to pollute the environment. That's something too. That's what it is. So the 10 Commandments, which was given to us today, I was saying before that it's elementary. Maybe it's not so elementary. Maybe just the basic 10 Commandments. If we can bring it back, this would be a wonderful thing. A wonderful thing. But going back to my question, the philosophical question which we asked before is, like I said, the idea of trying to bring first of all, to bring the 10 Commandments back to society, I think that would be a wonderful message of Shavuot. A wonderful message of Shavuot, there was a fellow named Viktor Frankl. I'm sure you've heard of him. Viktor Frankl was one of the biggest psychologists of the last generation. When you hear of the great psychologists, and there were many different psychologists, many of them Jewish of the last generation. One of them you all heard of was Freud. But Viktor Frankl was a student of Freud. But he felt that the meaning of life is not good enough just to say the meaning of life is just to be happy, and the meaning of life is what's the purpose of life? What's the deep meaning of life? So he felt that what the most important thing in a person's life is the greatest drive within the human being is not necessarily the power drive or the sexual drive or all the other drives that people speak about, or drives of attachment. He felt that the most important, most powerful drive within the human being is really ultimately people want to have a purpose, a meaning, to have a meaningful life. And he wrote a book actually all about that. Very famous book from Viktor Frankl. It's a very good read to read, where he talks about his idea of Logan therapy. He developed his theory in the Holocaust. He saw that people that had a meaning to life and a purpose of life were able to overcome many more obstacles and challenges than those that gave up on life. That's because they were well equipped to survive the Holocaust. And he wrote his book and his theory of Logan therapy, where he tells people, lots of people who live through cancer and other terrible diseases, he tells them, get some meaning in life. And when you live a meaningful life, purposeful life, it helps you get over a lot of the other challenges that we have in life. So Viktor Frankl was one of the great psychologists, but Viktor Frankl was also a great believer of the 10 Commandments. In fact, his whole life was really dictated and directed by what seemed to be a coincidence associated with the 10 Commandments. I don't know if you ever know the story, because he received many of the great scholars in Vienna those days. Many of the professors in the university, he was a young professor then already at university, they received visas to leave Austria and to go to another country, maybe to England or some other place, to save their lives. Because already they knew about the Nazis, Holocaust. So he received one of these visas, and he was about to go. He went to his father's house, and he was going to tell his father about the fact that he got the visa, and he's planning on leaving to save his life, his family's life. He's going to go maybe to England, away. But he was torn because he felt like he's going to leave his father and mother behind in Vienna. What's going to be with them? I guess he was an only son or something. So he felt he had to take care of his parents. Right? He had this like instinctive, keep it up aim, honor your father or mother. How could he leave his parents? Which many people in the Holocaust went through this same inner struggle. And he walked into the house, into their home, and it was just after Kristallnacht. And we have a Kristallnacht. They went down the streets, the Nazis, and they broke all the synagogues, and they broke all the windows. It's called Kristallnacht because they broke all the shop windows, and it was a terrible, terrible time. And it was just after Kristallnacht. He came to his father's house, came to tell him the news that he's considering to leave. And he gives a look on the table, and he sees a piece of an etching from something broken. And he asks his dad, "What's this?" He says, "It's Kristallnacht just recently. And I went outside, and I went in front of the shul, and I saw that they had broken down the whole shul in the front. And there was in front of the synagogue, they had the 10 Commandments. And a piece of the 10 Commandments came flying down on the floor and broke, shattered to pieces. And so I decided, I'm going to take a little piece home just as something special, something from the synagogue to show respect." And Viktor Frankl gives a look at it, and he sees what's said on it in Hebrew is Kabet es avicha v'yetimecha. Said on that piece of the 10 Commandments, it says, honor your father and your mother. And Viktor Frankl right away, something went off in his mind. He said, God is speaking to me. He says, I was planning on leaving my parents, but I'm not. God was like, there's no coincidence. The fact that I have this little piece of clay or whatever it was, like a piece of a broken piece of the tablet on my parents' dining room table, which says, honor your father and mother. Says, I have to stay and honor my father and mother. And so Viktor Frankl, because of that, honor your father and mother of the 10 Commandments, he changed the course of his life. He wouldn't have decided to stay with his parents. If he wouldn't have decided to stay with his parents, he would have never gone to the camps. If he would have never gone to the camps, he never would have experienced all the experiences that helped him form Logan Therapy and write his best-selling book and share that wisdom with millions, billions of people in the next generation, only because of the mitzvah of honor your father and mother, because that little piece of the 10 Commandments, the epicenter of the morality of the Jewish people was sitting on his parents' table. That directed him in this direction of life, which ultimately brought so much light to many people's lives in the future. So that's the power of the 10 Commandments, right? Power of the 10 Commandments. Immortal words of God. But going back to our original question, I'm going on many tangents with you. The first tangent is that we need to bring morality back to the schools. Second tangent is that the 10 Commandments really is an essential part of our lives, and it directs us from generation to generation. But the big question that I was asking, when they said that there's a famous line in Sherlock Holmes, he says, elementary Watson. It's elementary Watson. It's like, this is like basic stuff. I mean, Sherlock Holmes Elementary was not so elementary, right? But he always telling Watson, his assistant. Sherlock Holmes is the famous Conan Doyle's the Sherlock Holmes. He was the big investigator, or whatever he was. So he always solved all the mysteries, right? And he had an assistant, Watson. He always tells him elementary Watson. So his elementary is not so elementary. When he says elementary Watson, it's not, Yeah, it's like Watson. They're out in the woods, and they're camping in the middle of the night. And he wakes up Watson. Watson, wake up. And he says, Watson, what do you see? Watson says, what do you mean what I see? It's the middle of the night. I'm camping. I see the stars. I see the moon. I see the majesty of the heavens. He says, what else do you see? He says, I see the galaxies. I see I can see the whole history of the world in these small puffs of stars, and stardust. And so, no, what do you see? He says, what do you ask what I'm seeing? It's the middle of the night. He says, Sherlock Holmes says, our tent was stolen. How else? The stars, our tent was stolen. Elementary Watson. Sometimes we look at the deep stars and everything, but he didn't realize the simple thing. The tent disappeared. That's why he was able to see the stars in the middle of the night. They were sleeping in a tent. The obvious, right? And so sometimes elementary is not so elementary. But it is elementary, and the question is, what is so special about the Ten Commandments? If they're tenets of morality, A, and B, the Jewish people already had these laws already way before. What's so special? I'm just going to give you the answer in a nutshell, and this is based on a midrash that's brought in the Talmud actually. It's brought down that when Moshe Rabbeinu and Moses went up to the mountain and he wanted to bring down the Jewish laws to the people, the Ten Commandments, the angels started arguing with Moshe. Just give me one second. I'll be right back in 1 second. This is just a stage.
Guarda si possa admitir. Minimum.
Almost gone. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Yeah, you want me maybe to make a Zoom?
Tuzi se tato co zabija zvjerata.
I'll send Joe. I'll send you one.
Vjerate na skiti tu, pošto trebali pomijekati. Jedan bol mora za. Jaki grup?
Yeah, anyways, Eddie. Regards from the Chatanim, Eddie. So Moses comes up to the mountain, he comes up there to the heavens, climbs to the heavens, and he gives a look and he sees over there all the angels and everybody there. And the angel says, hold everything, the angels say. Angels tell Moses, you can't take the Torah and bring it to the people on earth. They're lowly creatures. Right? Leave the Torah in the heavens with us, the angels. This is where a holy thing like the Torah is such a great treasure, such great wisdom, divine wisdom. Leave it up in the heavens. So the angels are holding Moses back, and Moses is trying to bring the Torah. So they bring it to God. They bring to God the argument, and the angels say to God, we can't allow the Torah to be brought down on earth because this is a holy Torah. God said, I want to give it to the people. But they said, but how could you contaminate this Torah with such terrible people? We see there's going to be murderers in Uvalde and in Pittsburgh and in San Diego and other places. We see what's going to be the future. God, how can we bring it? So God turns to Moses and says, Moses, let's hear your case. God said to Moses, what's your answer? He says, okay, yeah, Torah is very holy. He says, what does it say in the Torah? It says, you shall have only one God, Moses says, right? You shall not have any other gods. Do you have any other gods up here that we need to reject? He said, no. Moses says, it says, honor your father and mother. Do you angels have a father? Do you have a mother? So they say, no. So Moses said, obviously, belongs to me. Because what else it says? It says, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. It says, do you have an inclination to murder? Or do you have up in the heavens an inclination to steal? Do you have an inclination to? They say, oh, wow. Moses is right. He has a point there. So God says, if so, give the Torah down on earth. Give me 1 second. Just give me one more second over here. Bring up the phone. Okay, so this is what happens. The question is, what is this whole debate all about? That the angels want the Torah, and then Moses wants the Torah, and then God says, Moses, answer them and tell them what's going on. I mean, what the angel didn't know, what it says in the 10 Commandments. They didn't know it speaks about a father and a mother. They didn't know it speaks about committing murder. It's not applicable up to the heavens. Well, so what were they arguing? What were they arguing about? So in this actually lies the answer to our questions and all of this. The angels said, yeah, maybe the Torah expresses itself in all these materialistic things. But is that the essence of Torah? Is the Torah really about material, physical world? No, the Torah is the good book and the spiritual book. Let's keep the Torah up in the heavens because that's where we are spiritual. And that's ultimately the purpose of the Torah, is to be more spiritual. We're here, we're angels. So they knew that the Torah says that thou shalt not murder and thou shalt not steal and father and mother. They knew that. But they felt that even though it talks about these things, so what did Moshe Rabbeinu tell? Moshe Rabbeinu was actually revealing to the angels that it's not just that the Torah happens to be talking about the materialistic physical thing. No. God created, why did God create a world? Was not to have angels. He wanted that there should be a world where people have challenges and people have difficulties and people lose children at a young age, and lots of questions, lots of different craziness that goes on in the world, and so much stress and so much hardships in the physical world. And yet people, by conducting themselves in a noble way and conducting themselves in the way that the Torah tells us to, and doing the 613 mitzvot of the Torah, we have the ability to transform this dark world and bring light into it. That's what God wanted. It wasn't for us. God didn't want escapism. He didn't want asceticism. He didn't want us to run away from the world. No. He wanted us to be in a world where there are Uvaldes and Pittsburghs and all these things going on in that world itself. A little light in the darkness. And that would be God's pleasure to see that happen. So this is how Moses was answering the angels. Moses was telling the angels, yes, you are perfection, but that's not the perfection God is looking for. God is usually looking for human beings who make mistakes, who are imperfect. And he wanted to bring some perfection into the world of imperfection. He wanted to bring some spirituality, not in the spiritual worlds, but in the physical worlds. He wanted to bring, in a world of Nazis and Holocausts and Vietnams and Russian-Ukraine wars and all these things, he wanted to bring a little joy, a little happiness, a little light into this world. And he gave the Jewish people a job to be a light unto the nation, to bring light to the world in that chaos, in that chaotic experience. It's easy to be an angel in the heavens, right? But to be an angel down here, that's what it's all about. That was Moses. That was the answer of Moses. God wanted to elevate the physical world, not just the spiritual world. And we can go on in this concept for much, much longer. But this is the basic idea of the 10 Commandments. When we take the 10 Commandments, it's not so elementary. Before the 10 Commandments, people were doing some good things too. But what happened at Mount Sinai was a transformational moment that God came down onto the mountain and he brought the possibility to the world that we, through our good deeds, can change the world and turn it into a good place. That's what the Mashiach is all about. The dream of the Jews of bringing the Mashiach. The hope is to change the world, transform the world, and to bring light into the dark space of the world. And that's what Shavuos is all about. Shavuos is all about. That's why we eat a lot of cheesecake. And the connection between that and cheesecake is for another time. The cheesecake was just to get your attention. Hashem should help us all. That we all see a better world, and this Shavuos will take upon ourselves to improve the world, perfect the world, and everybody can do that a little bit. We all can do it a little bit, but together and collectively, we can change the world for the good. And through that, we're becoming Mashiach Tzidkeinu and Omein. Anybody have any questions here?
Rabbi.
Yeah. Anyone?
It's not a question. It's just that it really brought it all home to me. My mother, Lishalom, was born in Poland, and she was the baby of 8, and she had a sister that already the only one that moved to Montreal before
Right.
the war. But she had parents who lived in Poland, and they were very old. They couldn't travel anymore. And her parents said to her, "Go, my child, the war is going to come and you have a sister in Montreal, go." And
Wow.
she didn't go. She waited and stayed with her mother, her parents.
Oh,
And
wow.
of course, and yeah, they never made it, but thank God my mother made it. And
Wow.
then she had one brother out of the other who survived the war, had a child, went to Israel in 48. So he survived the war, and then in 48, a bomb went into his place and killed them all. Yeah.
The stories.
Yeah.
These are stories.
Yeah. And then my sister was born in a DP camp in 47 in Germany. Anyway, it's so why the brother survived the war. I had a family with a child, one little boy, a 3-year-old.
Oh,
Anyway,
wow.
that's it.
Go figure
So-
these things. Yeah. We don't have all the answers, but just
No,
I can give general pictures, not individual
No.
pictures.
yet they came to Montreal and with
Yeah.
my sister, and Jewish-kite was still so important. I was brought up Orthodox, and it meant still a lot to them. And I questioned it in my head, why did they want to? It meant so much to them that I guess I understand it. And thank God they did.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you very much for these thoughts. And have a good Shabbos, and we'll see you.
Thank you, Good Shabbos.
We're not doing
Good
the
Shabbos.
pre-Shabbos tomorrow because it's Shavuos. There's too many things going on, so there's not going to be a pre-Shabbos tomorrow. But there will be a Shabbos, but not just the pre-Shabbos in the evening. Okay.
You sure there'll be a Shabbos, Rebbe?
Helga, I want
Yeah.
you to feel better. Nice seeing you.
The best. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, bye-bye.